What's up, Quack Bang? Mr. Terry here, your high school history teacher. Welcome back to another History Teacher Acts video. All right, we got one from our friend, the Fat Electrician. This one's called the Doom Turtle, America's only super heavy tank. I'm excited to learn about it. Make sure you show your appreciation for the Fat Electrician. Go like this original video. It's going to be linked down below. Sub to his channel. Get his cool merch. And come on back for some more coverage. All right, let's get started. If you're a channel member of my channel, you got to see this early.
Sometimes I like to read several books, get in contact with historians that are experts on the subject, and make a pretty serious video. And other times, I like to get completely unhinged and rant about some stuff that I think is funny. And by sometimes, I mean today, right now.
See, and that's why we love him. By the way, okay, actually, I got to go forward. That shirt's sick. Okay, I need that. His shirt game is so cool. I love it. Whoever's designing his stuff.
Funny. And by sometimes, I mean today, right now. Today we're talking about my favorite tank, ladies and gentlemen, America's only super heavy tank, the T-28, aka the Doom Turtle.
Cool. I know nothing about this. Oh my God, it looks weird.
Now, I said this is my favorite tank, which is a completely unquantifiable metric. Despite that, somebody in the comments is still going to tell me that I'm wrong. So if you think I should have a different favorite tank, go ahead and tell me about it in the comments below, and maybe I'll do a video about that one too. Okay, just to be clear.
Oh, I don't know if he's going to be sarcastic. Dude, tank gang. I'm telling you, man, of all the people that are into like specific stuff with military history, the tank folks, tankies, whatever you want to, whatever you're called, you guys are like the loudest group that I talk about of like, dude, you got to check out this tank. It's like, I don't know. There's like just tank simps out there. Y'all are funny.
When it comes to me and things like tanks and planes and guns, favorite is not the best. It's not the most impactful. It's not the most historically relevant. It's just the coolest / dumbest one around. And in my opinion, this is it.
I can appreciate
let's go ahead
that.
And get into this. All right, the Doom Turtle. It is a World War II era tank that was designed for one
I love
reason
the name.
and one reason only,
That's
and
a great
that is
name.
to punch through the German Sigfree Line. If you don't know, the Sigfree Line is Germany's western border, where they have essentially tried to fortify it to make it impenetrable to the Allied forces approaching, so that they can't break into Germany.
Okay, so we said we're going to like battle the Bulge, right? It's like, well, I mean, the battle of the Bulge is really to hopefully just do a big punch, sucker punch, not a sucker punch, but hit the Allies hard, right? Before they can really start to, you know, really pile onto Germany, and to keep the Western Front outside of Germany. So that's a big thing, though. They don't want to fight in Germany. Like World War I, you know, that was the end. When World War I, once the Allies in the West got to the German border, the Germans, I mean, they were done. They actually sought the armistice. Now we know with Hitler, he has no problem fighting in Germany, but wants to keep it out. But remember, this is like the final stand for the Germans, basically, at this time. All right, we got some tank defense here. But all right, yeah, I could see how a big, super armored tank could be useful in something like this.
Approximately 400 miles of concrete pyramids known as Dragon's Teeth, making it so tanks and other Allied vehicles can't pass through. Then on the other side of the Dragon's Teeth, you typically had other things that were meant to stop foot soldiers, like moats, barbed wire.
Think how much work it would take to make those.
Was over 18,000 bunkers with machine gun, mortar, and artillery positions that were going to, in theory, be able to mow down any ally trying to advance through those obstacles. Now, the American military and government knew about the Sigfree Line pretty much the entire time, because German propaganda told them about it, and they portrayed it as completely impenetrable. So the American military in 1943 is like, okay, we're going to come up on the Sigfree Line eventually. Let's go ahead and get a plan in the works on how we're going to address it once we get there. Now, clearly, that plan should not rely on tanks, right? I mean, that's kind of the Sigfree Line's entire MO. It was designed, built, and implemented with the sole purpose of stopping tanks. We should probably do anything other than use tanks, right? Wrong, completely wrong. American engineers got told the Germans built an impenetrable tank fortification, and they're like, fucking bet, we'll see about that. We're going to build a bigger, better tank that's going to drive right fucking through it. So the engineers got to work. This is called the AT project, and what they came up with was... Okay,
so I just looked up Sigfree Line. I wanted to get a little bit more background of it. So German defense line built during the late, in the late 30s. This is actually, I did not know they started this that early. So it started in 1936 opposite the French Maginot Line. Okay, so that makes sense. So you had the Maginot Line, which was France's pretty much peacetime defense project / works project, because it's the Depression, right? And then you got people building up defense line there. I did not know that they built that early. I could see why this would then become important later on, because you obviously the Germans don't want to actually use it. So, and then it's going to be, you know, really enacted with like battle the Bulge and stuff like stuff getting into like 1944. But I did not know that the defenses of it went clear back to the 1930s, like 1936. That's nuts. I mean, it kind of makes sense because it's like you see the Maginot Line being built, like you want to have something as well. But Maginot Line
surely
was
there's
epic.
spots along the Siegfried Line where the German military has a gap
Although it was
where they can
avoided.
drive their vehicles through, right? Has to be there. They can't just have 400 miles and they drive all the way around. There's got to be points where you can pass through it. And obviously those points of passage are going to be the most fortified positions, right? They're essentially going to make a fatal funnel, a choke point where all of the Allied forces have to try to go through a narrow passageway. And on the other side, it's going to be loaded with German 88 anti-tank guns, German artillery, machine guns, mortars, everything. They're going to be able to slaughter anybody that tries to make it through that little tiny narrow passage. To which the American engineers are like, cool, obvious solution. We're just going to make a tank that can't die. Okay, it's going to be so heavily armored that there's no anti-tank weapon or artillery piece known to man that could kill it.
And that's pretty much would be the only use for something like that, because if stuff is too heavy, it to a point, it's going to be not very efficient, not very effective, right? I mean, if you're slow, if it's hard to use them and, you know, like combine with other, you know, like faster tanks, something with a little bit more agility, that would be hard. But like if you just have one job to do, which is just to bust through this one thing, then yeah, I guess you do have a use for it. I thought this looked funny because I don't know, the front where the, you know, the barrel, whatever comes out, it's rounded like that. It just kind of looks funny, but obviously it has functional use.
We're going to put a gun on it that's so big that it can shoot through concrete bunkers and take out the enemy. We're literally going to drive this gigantic, heavily armored tank directly into the enemy choke point, stand there, take all their anti-tank fire, be untouchable, and then we're going to return fire and kill them first.
Yeah.
Hey, do you understand how
Well, what I was saying is just in case if you were watching this and you're like, why not just make every tank like that? You can't. It's not going to be efficient enough.
That is, this is the ultimate dad dick maneuver. Just straight up like, I know exactly what your plan is. I know what you want me to do so that you can beat me. I'm going to do it anyways, and I'm still going to win because fuck you. So they made the Doom Turtle,
specifically
the
built
America's only super heavy tank.
The Sigfree Line.
36 feet long, 10 feet tall, and 14 feet wide. It has
so
12
wide.
inches of armor on the front, and it's weighing in at 95 tons. Okay.
Hold on. I want to go back. I want to look at the specs again. Let's go back to the specs. All right. 105 millimeter main gun. Oh my God. That's so big. Oh my gosh. Okay. Then it's got a 50 cal on top. All right. You got your 50 cal. Tank commander's hatch, so you can see him there. You got a winch crane. Okay. If you get stuck, you need to be able to winch yourself out. I would think a winch like that would just not be effective because, like, think how sturdy something would need to be to like be able to winch out that thing. How many tons did he say? 90 or so? Like, you know, to have to do, you'd have to hook it up to like 4 tanks. 12-inch thick front army, 12 inches of foot of front armor there. Yeah, you're not going to do anything to that.
Okay, approximately 210,000 pounds. Okay, the human mind can't comprehend how heavy this tank.
Wait, what was the weight again?
And it's weighing in at 95 tons.
95.
Okay, approximately 210,000 pounds.
Think how much fuel it would consume.
Can't comprehend how heavy this tank actually is. It literally weighs as much as a blue whale, which also isn't helpful because most people haven't.
I didn't even get it across the channel.
So it's like, where's my calculator? Toyota Corolla is like 3,000 pounds. Okay, it's like 70 Toyota Corollas. Okay, this entire thing.
I had a Corolla. I can now visualize that. They're very light though. 70 Corolla. What would you rather fight though? 70 Corollas or one of these tanks?
Entire parking lot got a gun strapped to it, and now it's coming to kill the enemy. Speaking of gun, they went with a 105 millimeter gun. Okay, that is field grade artillery. This is literally a howitzer that they strapped to the front of this metallic blue whale. Okay, if you're not picking up what I'm putting down, I'm trying to tell you
hit the bunkers.
Basically the Norwal of death. All right, which raises the question: why on earth did they go with the Doom Turtle and not the Norwal of death? Well, it's because this thing's slow as shit. Which is really the downfall of this tank, because somebody basically said,
all right, I don't know if I need to put that. I always put a pin a comment down below, you know, something, a reflection to the video. So I might have to do it. You guys might have to find my comment below that says, okay, Doom Turtle, or what do you say? Narwhal of Death. I want to make sure I get the wording right. Okay.
All right, which raises the question, why on earth did they go with the Doom Turtle and not the Norwal of Death? Well,
okay.
Well, it's because this thing's slow as shit. Which
okay. Either way, I don't care. Find my pinned comment down below. I want to know Narwhal of Death or Doom Turtle.
Which is really the downfall of this tank, because somebody basically said, hey, we're going to build a 200,000 pound tank, and then we're going to put the same V8 engine in it that the M4 Shermans have. Yeah, the Doom Turtle is rocking a 500 horsepower V8 Ford engine, okay? Just for the record, if you don't know much about engines or horsepower, Dodge is out here making minivans with 1,000 horsepower that weigh 5,000
That's what I mean.
pounds. And the DOD thought it would be a good idea to stick a 500 horsepower V8 inside of a tank that weighs as much as a blue whale.
No.
Okay, the Doom Turtle's coming at you at the speed of mock potato.
That's what I was gonna say. Like,
to the wall. This thing max.
That's nothing. Like, I mean, you've driven trucks with V8s, right? It's like, I mean, yeah, it's powerful, but minuscule compared to that. They need 2 of those.
Is out at 8 miles an hour. So clearly they're going to have to transport this
Walking
thing all
speed.
the way to the Sigfree line, right? If they land this thing
Very
on
light
Normandy
jogging
and let
speed.
it drive all the way across France, it's going to take like 3 years to get there. And this is actually why the Doom Turtle has that unique look of having 4 sets of tracks instead of just 2
Dude,
very
the
wide
back
sets
looks
of tracks
sick.
like a normal super heavy tank would. And that's because those 2 outermost tracks come off and separate from the Doom Turtle, allowing it to be easier to transport, both because now the Doom Turtle isn't as wide and it comes apart in 3 separate chunks.
That's
making
smart.
it all weigh significantly less than the original 95 tons.
Well, could it operate without those other tracks though? So it's got 4 tracks. Could you operate it with just the 2 to like speed it up? I mean, I see how that wouldn't be as good if you're actually going through those, you know, those cement pyramids, you know, that you build to stop the anti-tank stopping, you know, structures. But yeah, can you operate it without it? Can you go like 2-wheel drive mode?
3 separate chunks, making it all weigh significantly less than
So
the
assume it would go
95
faster, right?
tons. So they've got it all figured out, and by 1945 they start manufacturing these things. Originally they're planning on making 25 of them. They figure that'll be enough to punch through the Sigfree line, but they build 2 prototypes first. So they get those prototypes built, then they're testing the first one, and the V8 engine that's trying to move 200,000 pounds obviously catches fire, burns out the entire inside of the tank. The entire thing is essentially
you need more
a total
power,
loss.
man.
And while that was going on, the Allied forces managed to penetrate the Sigfree line. How on
it
earth
didn't
did
even
they
matter.
do that without the Doom Turtle, you ask? Well, A, the Sigfree line wasn't really all it was cracked up to be, according to the German propaganda. It definitely was not impenetrable. It was undermanned. It just wasn't as good as it was made out to be. So they just went and they sent out recon.
I would think it would have been a lot better earlier in the war, but like they're getting their butts just rocked freaking in the Eastern Front, you know? So like, yeah, maybe if this had happened, because they said it was started in 36. When was the final form finished? I didn't read that, but yeah, it was probably would have been a lot more defended earlier.
Found a couple of spots where they weren't well covered by like artillery and machine guns and booby traps, and then they just put a bulldozer out and pushed dirt over the top of the Dragon's Teeth and then drove right over the top, got behind enemy lines and took everybody out. Yeah,
that's a good thing. I didn't think of it that way. Like, just instead of trying to like destroy those, just like, yeah, build an overpass essentially. I love that you could just like hook up a bulldozer to those tank dozer
right over the top, got behind enemy lines and took everybody out.
Tanks are cool though. I'm not gonna lie.
Man hours building
tank
this
simps,
400-mile stretch of concrete booby traps, and they got outdone by a couple of rednecks with a bulldozer. So because of that, the Doom Turtle.
Did it say micro penis? It does. Who's this guy? Ginger Billy?
So because of that, the Doom Turtle simply just wasn't needed.
I don't know who that is.
So they stopped the project. There was one surviving prototype. They gave that over to Aberdeen Proving Ground, and they used that basically as a giant weight to test transportation equipment because, well,
it never went into production.
They had, and if it could move the Doom Turtle, it could move anything else. So they used it for that for a little while. Then one day, somebody just parked it in a field, and everybody forgot about it. A little while after that, people started asking questions. Historians, the public, museums, like, hey, where's that badass tank? We want to preserve it. We want to save it. It's a part of history. We want to stick it in our museum. Let me have it so I can take care of it. And the army is like, I don't know, bro. We lost it. Okay, now on one hand, to be fair, I'm pretty sure.
Dude, you know, some drunk cadets found it sometime and just like on boot camp graduation, yeah, they got hammered, went out and found it, drove it through some town, and then like drove it into a lake on accident, and then just shut up about it after.
Sure, I know exactly how this happened. They just like had a couple of dudes go park it. They made it take all day. They parked it off in a field. Those dudes like retired. They left. They moved on, and then nobody remembered where it got parked. Okay, like I'm sympathetic to that. I understand how it happened.
Alcohol was involved.
How the fuck do you lose a 200,000 pound tank that there's only one of? Like, I would understand
it probably costs like $1 million.
We misplaced a Sherman tank because America made like 50,000 of them, right? But no, this isn't a Sherman tank. It's twice the size of a Sherman tank, and there's only one of them, okay? You could park it in a parking lot full of tanks, and you would still be able to find it. How on earth did you manage to lose a blue whale with a gun attached to it, okay?
Dude, where's my car? Where's your car, dude? Dude, where's my car?
So that's it. It's just gone. It's MIA for the next 27 years. Nobody has any clue where this thing is at.
Just show up.
One day, some hunter is out in the woods near a military base hunting, and he's like, hey, there's a fucking tank sticking out of those bushes.
Dude, there's your car.
Yeah, you guys thought I was being silly earlier with that War Thunder ad, didn't you? When I stuck a couple of bushes on this giant tank and pretended like that was going to conceal it. Well, history's on my side now because this bitch was incognito for 27 years because it had a couple of bushes on it. What now? So the hunter goes to the army. He's like, hey, I found this weird looking tank in the bushes. And they're like, oh shit, we've been looking for that thing. So the army then takes the tank. They give it to a museum in Fort Knox. So it's on display there for a little while. And then they decide that they're going to move it from Fort Knox to Fort Benning or Fort More Freedom, whatever the fuck it's supposed to be called now. The home of the infantry. They decide they're going to move it to the infantry museum at the home of the infantry. So they throw it on the HET trailer, the heavy equipment trailer, and they tow it all the way to Georgia. While they're towing it there, apparently they take a turn too hard and it breaks the chains off the HET trailer and the entire main cab of the tank flies into the ditch. Now, granted, it was just the main cab of the Doom Turtle, so it didn't have the two outermost tracks, which is like a significant amount of weight, but still, the main cab is 60 tons flying off your trailer into the ditch, so that's terrifying. Obviously,
then you got to get that out.
Fine. The paint got scuffed, no big deal.
Was the winch still operable?
They get it where it's going. Now, here's my issue. I know for a fact that there are pictures of the Doom Turtle in a ditch somewhere in Georgia. I need those pictures. Someone has them on their cell phone. This happened in like 2017, 2018, 2019, somewhere around there. I know one of the drivers in that convoy took a picture of it with their smartphone.
Okay, no doubt. Okay, between my audience, his audience is obviously way bigger than mine, but between the two audiences, come on, we got Georgia people down there. I know some of you. Find those photos. We need them.
It has to have happened. I want that picture for history so I can get it to the museum, okay? Get me that picture.
What are you waiting for? Chinese New Year? Go, go, go.
Sorry, so that's it. That's the end of the story. They get it to the National Infantry Museum, and that is where it is on display today. So in conclusion, that's my favorite tank for literally no reason other than it's completely ridiculous and I think it's funny. Literally,
I wanted to see it in action,
man. To be a
man.
giant middle finger. The enemy told America, hey, you can't drive your tanks through here, and America said, hold my defense budget and watch this shit, and this is the monstrosity that they came up with, okay? I don't know if you can give a tank steroids or even test a tank for steroids, but if you can, test that one first. Now, is it unfortunate that it never saw combat? Yeah, absolutely. It's cool to think about if it did. However, that serves to highlight one of the most important lessons that I teach on this channel, and that is that the only thing scarier than engineers and defense contractors with an unlimited budget is a bunch of infantrymen on the ground with time on their hands.
And alcohol.
That's what actually gets shit done. Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch over at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang out.
All right, so you've been called to action. We got to find some photography of that thing stuck and getting out. So, all right, well, that was cool. Yeah, I hadn't heard of that tank before. I can see why now because I never really went into production, but interesting idea. And it was what was fascinating about that too, just from like a historical perspective, is how it's actually not even necessary, but it's like it could have existed, right? They probably have to beef it up. I was wondering if you could really, again, like make it reliable using a V8 engine like that. Like you got to have a lot more power than that. But nevertheless, you know, like he was saying, it is pretty dangerous and scary how much money can just be thrown into stuff like this development, you know, and how much money goes into the military, right? And to be able to fund these, especially for the United States. So, all right. Well, anyways, what do you think of this tank? What are your favorite tanks? Let me know down below. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye.